Today on Jump the Snap, well, if you couldn't tell by the title because you're blind or you just can't read, Carter, tell the viewers what we are going to be doing today.
We are going to be talking about free agency and how not exciting it was.
It's going to be good. So, Carter, where do you want to start with free agency?
Well, it's like I said, like there was a lot of excitement about. I think there was a lot of excitement again this year for free agency and where people could end up via trade or signings, and the best free agents ended up just staying home. It's like the most interesting part was who teams lost more than who got signed. It's
You,
like,
you know what? Oh, sorry. You know what pisses me off? And this is going to be my Packer fan coming out. So, editor, get the censor ready. Because I might not be able to hold back. Okay.
oh no. I'm the
Speaking
editor.
of
Wait a minute.
speaking, they don't need to know that. Speaking of blind people, Brian Gutsikin, however the fuck you pronounce his name. Okay, I don't care how you pronounce it. I don't understand. I for the love of me I do not understand. Okay, because the the Lions, they picked up a cornerback, DJ Reed, probably one of the better cornerbacks in free agency. Uh, the Bears beefed up their offensive line.
Yeah,
So that's
I didn't put that in my notes, but we actually need to talk about that.
yeah, that's terrifying. The Lions, I'm sorry. The Vikings also beefed up their offensive line, and they're probably maybe going to get Aaron Rodgers for a quarterback. And no offense to Aaron Banks or like Hobbs that we picked up, but we have always been good about drafting offensive linemen and developing them. That's the one position that I never worry about as a Packers fan because we always have it covered. So that's just what we're good at.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I saw a post this morning, and Jordan Love is just about the only Packer left on the team that was drafted between 2020 and 2021.
Oh my
And
god.
there were some O linemen in there. So, well, some concern with drafting O line, but otherwise, for the most part, if we draft a lineman in the third round or second round or fourth and fifth rounds,
We do pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah.
generally. But
But I don't okay, last year we pick up McKinney, we pick up Jacobson, okay?
Jacobs.
Or Jacobs, I'm sorry, Jacobs. Um we picked both of them up and it turned out to be real good and that was a surprising move from the Packers.
Well,
Like they never do that.
it's because we finally had money to spend, so I think everyone had fair expectations of this year being the same thing of, okay, we're gonna keep signing talent, especially now that Goody came out and said we have to be more urgent about winning the Super Bowl. And it's like, yeah, you made the right moves last year with the money we had. Now keep it going. Try to trade for someone, try to sign someone, do something. And we draft a left guard. And I see the plan of moving Jenkins to center and putting Banks at left guard. But the thing I have an issue with is Banks is really freaking good at run blocking. He's probably a top three guard in free agency, but his like best thing is run blocking. So does that mean we're going to be running the ball again 30 times a game, or are we going to let Love actually throw the ball for once and actually develop a rhythm? Because
Yeah, that's another
how are you supposed to get real game experience throwing the ball if you're never allowed to throw the ball? It doesn't make any sense.
yeah, and that's another thing I could probably rant about is Matt LaFleur's play calling at times. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, how do you not, especially with the wide receivers? You have Dubs, who's he's a concussion away from possibly being out for the season or worse. Watson's not going to be in most of the season. I just don't get how you don't get a veteran wide receiver,
Well,
and we need a rusher, a defensive rusher, and it just seems silly to me that you're worrying. Yes, Banks is a great offensive lineman. I'm not saying he's not, but we have bigger things to worry about right now.
well, looking at like the free agents I have on my spreadsheet so far, because I really wrote down like the top names. Like the best wide receiver that got signed other than the team they were at was DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens. And you look at the options that are out there of like Stephon Diggs or Deontay Johnson, like those are locker room poisons. Like there isn't
But
really a good free agent now at wide receiver. So now it's just turned into either we trade for someone out of nowhere or we have to draft very carefully because there's no way Goody is going to take a wide receiver in the first round. There just isn't.
no, never does.
And where we
Yeah,
are in the draft, there's a good chance there isn't a first round wide receiver by pick 23. And I, when we do the mock draft episode, I have you'll see a few wide receivers in the first round, but by us, they're gone. There is no first round wide receiver, and that's why I'm so dead set on we need to draft Jaden Higgins because that guy can knows how to get open. And you see all these teams, or you see all these people saying, "Oh, we need to go after Cooper Cup." I just saw a stat driving home. Out of 159 or 151 wide receivers last year, he was like 142 in getting open. Like we do not need that kind of guy in our locker room. He just can't do anything anymore. And that's the issue with free agent wide receivers this year is that the best ones stayed home, the next best ones went to different teams, and then the ones after that are either bad personalities, bad locker room presences, or they're just old and it's not worth it. Because we need someone who can fill that man beater role on the outside that Watson had, but I just don't know who there is that could do that unless we trade for someone at this point.
well, yeah, I think we desperately need a veteran wide receiver, and I think Devonte Adams. If the
Oh
reports
yeah, I
are
forgot about
true,
Devontae. He was the only one that would have worked.
if the reports are true, and Brian never even reached out to him, I'm sorry, but like he better hope that the draft works out well. Otherwise, I'm putting him on the hot seat because
I
we are so close to competing at like the highest level.
I think
Like
I have a fear that he saw how mad Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed got about what Jacob said about needing a wide receiver one in the room. And he's like, well, I don't want to upset the team. It's like, that's not, you don't need to worry about their feelings. You need to look at this, just the pure facts. The Packers need a real wide receiver one. We're not saying Wicks and Reed are bad. We're not trying to replace them. We're trying to make them better. And yeah, they're young. And frankly, it's weird to me that I'm now at the same age as professional wide receivers. But I would think at that age, you'd be mature enough to realize I need to get better and I should take every advantage I have at getting better, which would mean accepting a veteran wide receiver such as Devonte Adams into the locker room.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, it's helpful for them too. If you have an actual threat that teams have to worry about and maybe double team, they're gonna get open too. I mean, it's just good for the whole team to have that veteran, that threat. And I love Jaden Reed, but he's not really there yet.
Well,
Um,
that's hard. That's the thing too. It's hard to say is he there because they stopped using him the right way.
yeah,
He's a
yeah,
slot receiver, but they always threw him in motion on jet sweeps and stuff in the second half of the season. It's like the guy was just getting his jogs in for all practices for the next 10 years in all those last few games. He just was running back and forth just to be a distraction. It's like you need to have a meaningful distraction, but it doesn't work if he's never a threat because they stopped throwing the freaking ball. They just kept running it. And like, yeah, running it's great with Jacobs, especially with the O line we have, but we shouldn't be making him a workhorse. He shouldn't be like we I don't want him to get hurt too soon because we used him too much. We have these receivers that are ready to develop to take the next step, and we had such a good game plan like against the Cowboys in the playoffs a couple of years ago and even that last stretch of games a couple of years ago with Love and how everyone was just getting open. It's like where were those kinds of plays? Now I don't want to get too far into the Packers since we're going to be going division by division here at some point talking about that and whatnot. But I'm just if how this season next season goes, in my opinion, Goody and LaFleur could very easily end up on the hot seat. I'm not saying they need to be fired after what happens next year. Say if we have a repeat of last year, but if we do have a repeat, that 2026 season's looking a lot more important to get right.
I agree. Yep. Yeah, I'm starting to lose patience, and yeah, it was frustrating for the Packers, I think. Again, they got I think Hobbs is decent. Banks is obviously really good. I just think
Well,
it was
if you
it's the wrong things we need,
well, we
that
needed
we
a cornerback.
yeah, we
That's why I
did.
was really
But
hoping we'd fight for DJ Reed, but
yep.
apparently we didn't. Or even Paulson Adebo, which at 18 million a year, I still would have gone after him. But then you look at the guys that are still out there. Like there's a linebacker who can play defensive end, from the Giants, Aziz Ojulari. I really want him really bad. I wanted him at the trade deadline. We didn't trade anyone. We just traded out, I think. But I really want him bad if we're gonna do anything to help generate pass rush. We let go of Wilson. We held on to McDuffie. We have Cooper. We have Quay, but McDuffie isn't really a starter. But if you bring Aziz Ojulari in, I think that's the kind of guy we need to help not only help in the passing defense, but to generate some real pressure. Just keep Quay in the middle and put Cooper and Ojulari on the outside and just send them on a blitz, and you will get pressure like crazy. And like,
Yeah.
oh my god, it's a Packer fan wet dream right there. If we could get him with Cooper, oh. But yeah, enough about the Packers. All right, those other teams.
Yeah.
Other teams made moves.
Yeah.
But it's like going back to what I said at the beginning here. It's like you got T. Higgins. He got franchise tagged by the Bengals, so he stayed home. You had Chris Godwin. Everyone's like, the Patriots are going to want him and they're going to pay him good. He took a cheaper deal to stay with the Buccaneers. Clearly, he didn't want to leave, which kind of sucks because I wanted some excitement here. But then you had potential trade targets in Miles Garrett and Max Crosby. And there was a lot of speculation like, would the Packers go for them? Would the Lions go for them? Would the Eagles go for them? And instead, they reset the defensive end market and are officially off the trade block because of how much money they're getting paid.
Miles
And
Garrett. Miles Garrett making generational wealth. That is a huge fucking contract right there.
which is bad
Good for
timing
him.
for the Cowboys since Micah Parsons is coming up too, and they're trying to get him extended.
Oh yeah.
And there's no way in hell he's gonna say, "Well, if these guys are making 100 mil guaranteed, I want 100 mil guaranteed." Like he's gonna want to get paid just as well as these other guys, even though he's probably not as good as these other guys.
Yep.
But yeah, and again, like what I said at the beginning, it's like you look at the most interesting part of this free agency was who was lost by teams, and there like remember how I said in the last episode the Eagles were on my copium list?
Yep. Yep.
Would you like to hear who they lost?
Yeah. Yes.
So they lost Josh Sweat, who went to the Cardinals. They lost Milton Williams, who went to the Patriots. They lost Isaiah Rodgers, who went to the Vikings. They lost Darius Slay, who went to the Steelers. They lost James Bradbury, who they cut, which is the interesting one. And then they traded CJ Gardner Johnson to the Texans. So there's key players on the secondary and defensive line are just gone. And if I'm looking at my spreadsheet here of who there was signed, now albeit I made this a couple days ago, but Philly is the only team on my list that didn't sign anyone.
Philly hasn't signed anyone
I'm
yet.
sure they signed AJ Dillon, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
they have some issues on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I didn't know they lost that much. That's kind of
I
crazy.
told you they were going to lose key defensive players, and they done did it. They still have enough talent on the offensive side of the ball to where they can compete. I think I said that, but there's a little bit of a little pothole in the road to the Super Bowl back to back years here, which was
Well,
their
that
impressive D line. But
yeah, that defense was nasty that whole playoff run. I mean, they were really good. So, uh,
now, speaking as Packer fans, we're gonna love this news. But it's also as a football fan, it's kind of sad to see. But the 49ers They lost everyone.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
still have no money to spend. Who did they spend their money on? Mac Jones, the guy they should have drafted over Trey Lance. Oh.
Yeah, who did the 49ers all lose?
So they cut, shockingly, Kyle Juszczyk, longtime like number one fullback in the league here.
Yeah.
They cut defensive tackle Javon Hargrave and defensive tackle Malik Collins. Now, Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga signed with the Broncos. You have Charvarius Ward, who signed with the Colts, which they weren't ever going to keep him because due to tragedy, he needed to get out of California and just start fresh. That's up to him. But then Aaron Banks, their top guard, signed with us. Jalen Moore, their left tackle, and Elijah Mitchell, their backup running back, signed with the Chiefs. And they traded Debo for a bag of Skittles.
Oh, yeah. How do you
Eh,
think the Commanders are going to be with Debo on
so
the
that's
Commanders
that's
now?
the thing. The Commanders got to work. Okay, they didn't really sign a lot of people because
Yeah.
like they signed Javon Kinlaw and a safety. I can't remember his name, but they traded for Laramie Tunsil from the Texans. You know, he's a good left tackle. He's a really good left tackle, but he's very penalized. But I'm sure they're going to take a slight step back in terms of like sophomore slump Jaden Daniels, but they so far are getting better. And I know they signed more people. I just don't have them on my list, but I think they're going to kind of be like where they were in the playoffs last year, kind of in that 5 to 7 range. I think the Eagles potentially still win. Well, maybe not, but I think it's definitely going to be Eagles and Commanders fighting for the East. I don't think the Cowboys probably come in third, Giants in last, which we'll get to. But yeah, I just
Commanders offense, I think, was Debo Samuel. That was a really good addition. It just
I
uh, gives them another weapon, and I think that'll help McLaurin as well a lot too. So
oh yeah, if Debo actually decides to get back in shape, it's like
yeah,
because like I saw a meme of him at the Super Bowl and someone said he had the Brian Griffin build. I couldn't unsee
the
it.
Brian Griffin build.
I couldn't unsee it.
Wow.
Oh man, but yeah, so I think Commanders are gonna kind of do what the Packers did, where they were like shockingly better than they should have been, and either they're gonna be right back where they were, or maybe take a slight step back in the second year. But yeah, and then one more team that did lose a lot, and we talked about this a lot, is the Seahawks.
Oh my
They
gosh.
trade
Yeah.
Metcalf to the Steelers. They release Lockett. And now everyone's asking who the hell is Darnold going to throw to? Which free
Mhm.
agency news, they signed Sam Darnold to no surprise, but
Yep.
they made zero moves in free agency on the O line. But at the same time, to be fair, the price of the offensive lineman talent out there in free agency this year severely outweighed the talent that there was. It's like there was maybe 2 to 3 players at each position on the O line that was actually like, you need to pay this guy. But now these got some of these guards and centers are getting paid like almost 90 million, even though they haven't played full seasons. And it's like it's fair, but when you have legitimate starting issues on offensive line, there's only so much you can do in the draft. So what the heck? And they need a wide receiver to complement uh, Jackson Smith and Higba.
Yeah.
So
And
because
that's just the necessities. I mean, I don't know how they went, what they're thinking. I
they
mean,
did sign a tackle, but he's kind of just a depth piece, and believe they traded for and signed a few defensive line players. I think like Demarcus Lawrence was a guy they signed. I just don't think he's on my list. But so like their defense did get a little bit better this year. It was cool. You have a defense like one of the greatest defensive minded coaches in the past 5 years as your head coach, but you have legitimate issues on the O line, and you need to
oh,
fix that. Okay.
And Sam Darnold, he can pick you apart if you give him time, I feel like. But we've seen even last season, as soon as you start getting pressure on Sam Darnold, um,
Not good.
his accuracy goes down by a lot.
He's not good
Um,
under pressure, and he went to a team with a worse O line than the Vikings.
yeah, so I just don't see how this is gonna work out. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Seattle will prove me wrong, but I just don't see anything good coming out of that. So
And I'm also like I went off to you about that, about how excited I was that Clint Kubiak got hired by Seattle and what he was gonna do with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, uh what's his name? Freaking Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Like that's a lethal, and Geno Smith, a guy he was very excited to work with. And then they trade Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and let go of Lockett. So now you have, and all their offensive line talent that they did have, almost all of it got released. So what is your plan here?
yeah, I mean it's not like they were that far off.
No,
Like they did pretty good last season. So I mean,
they went 10-7, and they had a coordinator that was about to make them super freaking explosive, and they
yep.
just didn't. They just got rid of all of that. So now what the heck are they left with? Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I went from being very excited for the Seahawks, as much as I hate them as a Packer fan, to being, what the hell are you guys doing? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't make that make sense, people. I don't understand. I've rambled a bit now. You got any more thoughts and whatnot?
The only thing else that comes to my mind is Aaron fucking
Oh
Rodgers
God.
dragging out his decision,
I mean,
and
I,
and only Aaron Rodgers' way, you know.
I think the
Um,
issue is he did it once and now it's just expected. And I think he's honestly at the point where he's like actually debating, like, do I have another season in me, rather than I'm purposely dragging this out for attention.
oh, you think maybe he's actually thinking about it?
I think yeah, I think he legitimately is considering, like, I don't know if I want to go through another bad season like that, or if my body can still do it. Because very clearly last year we saw he's not mobile anymore. Dancing in the pocket was his whole thing. And I think it was a Patriots defensive lineman who's like, yeah, it's like he couldn't even move. And I almost felt bad for getting to him. And it's like, you put him behind a good O line, he's going to do great. But you look at the teams that he could go to, the Giants or the Steelers. The Steelers have like, on paper, it looks like they have a better O line, but the Jets actually have a better O line than the Steelers. So it's like, the Steelers is his best bet because you're going to have two deep threat wide receivers and DK Metcalf and George Pickens, assuming they're not picking fights down the field. But
Yeah, but let me play devil's advocate. What about the Vikings?
I don't.
Just fulfill the Brett Favre prophecy. Let's do it. Let's just get it done with. You know,
Well, that's
he could
funny thing
throw.
too. Even Favre said, I think you should go to the Vikings.
Yeah,
And
I
it's like, you
mean,
look at the talent he would have there. It's even better than like, they already beefed up their O line with Will Fries or Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly. So that's already, like, they're not great, but that's better than what they had.
yeah.
And you have Jordan Addison, you'd have Aaron Jones still, you'd have, what's his name? Not Jefferson.
Obviously, just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jefferson,
Jay Jettas.
Osborne.
Osborne's gone. Actually, I was wrong about that.
Osborne is gone.
KJ Osborne went to the Commanders last year, apparently,
Oh,
and they
oh,
re-signed him today. But either way, whoever the wide receiver three is, I can't remember his name. He did torch us a few times. So like, you don't need a tight end, and Hawkinson. And
yeah, and
he doesn't
Hawkinson.
throw to tight ends because tight ends feast on the middle of the field, and he never throws to the middle of the field. But
Yeah,
he would have such, like, like last year was the first time he threw a touchdown to a first round wide receiver. Now you would have two first round wide receivers to throw the rock to. So
yeah,
he would still feast even if he can't move that well. So, like, but at the same time, and I'm not saying this because I'm hoping he's bad as a Packer fan. I'm saying this legitimately. I think you just need to move forward with JJ McCarthy. I think he's ready. He didn't practice at all last year, but depending on what like, obviously Kevin O'Connell, now coach of the year, despite my objections. I He's a quarterback guru, and he's gonna know right away, is he ready or not? Does he need another year to sit? And so I'm kind of torn between, do you sign Rodgers so you can get like have him just like train under one of the like the reigning best quarterback in the league currently, of like if you go off a historical value, and we're not talking Super Bowls, we're talking pure passing talent? Or do you say, okay, we just need to get him out there, get him ready to go. He needs to learn trial by fire. And that's the thing people had reservations about JJ McCarthy was, how would he do in an actual pro style offense when he came from a very run heavy offense where he didn't really need to throw the ball much, but he still excelled at throwing the ball. So it's a whole debate, but I still think Rodgers should go to the Steelers and just maybe give them their like one last, because I think Rodgers does have one more good season in him, like classic Rodgers in him, because now he's been humbled by the Jets. Everyone's saying he's washed. Everyone's saying he should have retired 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and everyone's talking shit about him and just like they just want him gone and how much of a problem he is. Well, the last time people were kind of talking like that was
MVP.
2020, and he won MVP.
Yep.
And they did it again in 2021, MVP. But that 2020 season was unfreaking believable.
Yep.
And I think if he has any semblance of repeating even half that, it will be with the Steelers. Because Tomlin likes him, he likes Tomlin, and he does his best when a coach challenges him. That's why he was so good those first few years with LaFleur, because LaFleur was still challenging him. The only reason he went down was because LaFleur started listening more to him and just kind of bowing to his every whim. That's not going to happen this time around with Tomlin. Tomlin's going to chew him out if he starts doing some shit. The only thing I think would struggle there is that reports came out with Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator for the Steelers was that Russell Wilson completely cut off contact with Pittsburgh because he has no interest in going back and working with Arthur Smith, who wouldn't let him change the play at the line. But that's what Rodgers does best, is changing the play at the line.
Oh, that yeah, yeah. I honestly think that the Vikings. I think he should go to the Vikings. I just think like they're set. If he wants to compete, if I'm being honest, if he wants to compete at the highest level possible, I think the Vikings have it all. They just need a quarterback.
They
And
do. And it's
and McConnell is a great coach. I could just see it working kind of for a couple years, and McCarthy could learn under Rodgers those 1 2 years, and then come in and be ready,
well, yeah,
kind of
that's
like what
that's the
Jordan
thing
Love did.
too. Like after how Jordan Love played his first season, and like teams quickly learned, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't throw our rookies out to the field right away. Maybe we should let them sit. And I think I heard the rumor is that Rodgers does still want to play a couple more years. So where is it, like, is history going to repeat itself and a former Green Bay Hall of Fame quarterback plays 2 years at the Vikings? Who knows? But unlike the Vikings back then with Favre, they're going to be set now with a quarterback ready to go if they get Rodgers when he decides to retire. And that, oh my God, please retire as a Packer. We still love you for all you did. Please don't retire as a Viking.
Oh yeah, I would hate that.
Oh, then you officially would be burnt from our memories. Don't do that. Oh, who knows with Rodgers and Russell Wilson too. Like that dude's got to be coming up on the end if he's looking at the Giants or the Browns as his landing point.
Oh yeah,
Like I'm
yeah. I
like
mean,
him and Malik Neighbors on the Giants would be great, but he's gonna be running for his life.
yeah,
Which is
yes,
why it's so confusing. Everyone's like, I think Rodgers has really good chances of going to New York and staying in New York. It's like,
yeah.
why
That
would he go
never
to a
made.
worse O line? It
Yeah,
doesn't
that
make
never made
sense.
sense. Yeah, no. It's either Steelers or Vikings.
His
That
best
for
bet
sure.
was to retire or stay at the Jets. Well, now some teams have options for him, so it's like, which one's it gonna be?
Funny too is I see a lot of Viking fans saying things like keep Aaron Rodgers away from here. So
Well,
I don't know if
I
there'd be too many fans that'd be happy if Aaron Rodgers went to the
I
Vikings,
saw a
but
TikTok of like waking up and praying Rodgers isn't on my team today. It's like I don't, man. I feel like you're just yeah, as a person, he kind of sucks, but as a player, you still have a chance of getting classic Rodgers out of him.
Even last year was the Jets. He didn't have like that bad of a year.
Him and Mahomes
It's
had a
just
comparable season.
yeah, it's just the Jets sucked.
Yeah,
It wasn't Rodgers'
it
fault,
it's
you
just a
know.
whole organization and culture issue. You had a coaching system that was bowing down to Rodgers. You can't have that. Then they fired all those coaches, and it's like, what I don't. What's our plan here? What's our identity? What are we gonna do? That's why I'm excited for the Jets to have Aaron Glenn and some of the coaches they hired, because now even with Justin Fields reuniting with Garrett Wilson, like he might not be able. Like Justin Fields has gotten better every season, but now that he has Garrett Wilson, he can just start throwing fuck it balls. He knows Garrett Wilson's down there somewhere. And it's like he doesn't need to read a defense to know where Garrett Wilson's going to be.
Yeah.
But with Rodgers and that whole Jets thing, like that was just a problem from the get-go. And now if like I said, if he goes to the Steelers, he's going to be challenged. He's going to have something to prove. You're going to get your best bet out of Rodgers. Well, it's more this is more so about the Browns, but I think if the Browns do not, and I'm gonna bring this up again when we do the mock draft, but I think if the Browns can't get Wilson, they are officially locks for Shador Sanders, but they don't want to draft Shador Sanders
Mm.
because I don't think he is a top 15 talent, and I think the word around the league is he isn't a top 15 talent, much less a first round talent. But if they can't get Kirk Cousins or by trading for him or get Wilson to sign there, you have to take a quarterback, and you don't want to risk it on someone, by second round. You want to do it with your first round pick. So whether that be trading back or not, but at the same time, if you don't get Wilson, you have to take Shador. If you get Wilson, there's still generational talent in the top 5 picks that you can't miss. So it's hard to say what they're gonna do. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
wonder if they would trade. I mean, it's not a very deep class for quarterbacks, so I
no, it's
mean,
there. It is like the number one pick is probably going to be Cam Ward. Which, speaking of Tennessee, they signed. I didn't even put it on my list. They signed. I think his name's Sam Martin from the Lions, a guard. And with the way they're beefing up their O line, I think they're officially sticking at the number one pick to take Cam Ward. That's my guess. Because you do not run it back with Will Levis unless you want the number one pick again next year.
yeah, yeah.
So, which that's another thing I'm surprised about. Like, they don't want to, like, I don't know how much money they have, but I'm surprised they didn't try to go after Sam Darnold or Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Like,
Oh, the Titans. Yeah.
like, you really want to draft a rookie quarterback and not have him sit behind a veteran? Like, okay. I think it's going to be Shador to the Browns and Cam Ward to the Titans. Because the way the Titans are beefing up their O line a bit with a new tackle who can complement, I can't remember his name. Whoever they got at right tackle, I think it is. But they have a new center from a couple of years ago. They have a new right tackle. Now they have a left tackle. And they signed a new guard who's a really good guard despite his age. It's got to be quarterback they're going for. It has to be.
Oh my gosh. Well, how I was just trying to think, when was Will Levis like drafted?
He was drafted the same draft 2 years ago with, in like, I think it was like pick 34 of the second round.
Okay.
And that was the same class where a lot of people thought he was going to go in the first round, but then you had Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson. Which, speaking
Yeah,
of the
that's
Colts, you
yeah.
want their quarterback room. Oh my God.
Oh my god.
Daniel
Daniel
McFrickin
Jones.
Jones. Last year, last in accuracy was Anthony Richardson. Second to last in accuracy was Daniel Jones.
That's an interesting room right there.
That is a room.
Um,
It,
it's a room.
it is one
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
quarterback rooms of all time.
oh gosh.
I
Yeah, the
like
Colts.
there's defense. Yeah, you got Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward. You beefed that up. But Daniel Jones? Like, why didn't you try to go for someone who's a veteran and has a similar skill talent to Anthony Richardson, such as Russell Wilson or Justin Fields?
I actually thought for a minute there Rodgers could go to the Colts.
I thought so
Um,
too. Like, I thought they were going to be like, okay, let's get his accuracy up. But now I think there's a chance. I hope it happens because I'm like a sucker for underdogs, and I like Shane Steichen for what he did with Hurts. Like, no, oh no, oh no. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. Everything's hunky dory. Okay. Okay. Uh. Anyways.
you okay over there?
Nothing's on fire.
Okay, all right.
But I thought Rogers was gonna sign with them because get the most accurate quarterback of all time to coach up the most inaccurate quarterback of all time. But I think now with Richardson, he officially is working out with the guy that turned Josh Allen's career around. Because like Josh Allen, his rookie year had like a 50% completion percentage. He goes and works out with this guy. Suddenly he's not putting so much arm strength behind it. He's actually using fine-tuned mechanics. His accuracy has only gone up since. And now Richardson's working with this guy. So I'm hopeful Richardson comes out just gunslinging like he should be, but actually hitting his target. Because like we said last time, he can throw the ball over the barn, but he cannot hit the barn.
Yeah,
So
there's still something in me that just has hope for Anthony Richardson.
I just
I can't explain it, but there's just something where
I think it's just like the potential of like this guy is an athletic freak, and if suddenly he learns how to throw the ball, it's like
oh
he's gonna be like the next Cam Newton, but even better.
yeah, he'd be a monster, but um yeah, I don't know why. I've watched him play a little bit, and I just he has like all the potential there. He's got all the kind of attributes you'd want, except like you're saying, he can't fucking hit the side of a barn.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I don't know why. I just have a lot of faith in him. I hope he gets it turned around here.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting, and like speaking of quarterbacks from that draft class, since we're on the train already, we already talked about Will Levis and Anthony Richardson staying in the division. Let's look at CJ Stroud. Houston got rid of like all of their O line, all just about like everyone on the left side of the ball, and they beefed up their defense real well. But who the hell is gonna protect CJ Stroud? That was the issue last year. Like I'm half Texan fan, so like don't hurt my QB. Please don't do this.
He was actually running for his life last year, wasn't he?
He
Quite a
was,
bit.
and there was just like a lot of the O line was bad because of Bobby Slowick, but there was still a legitimate lack of like skill and talent there, especially at the left guard position. Well, now you got rid of your all pro left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, which you always had to defend because as good as he was always also getting penalized and never held himself accountable. But it's like like what are you gonna do? You need to draft a wide receiver. You have a mediocre tight end, but who's gonna protect him when he throws the ball? I don't
Yeah.
get it. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Start drafting a lot of O line.
Oh, we might as well stay in the division because Jacksonville. You want to talk about winners of free agency? Jacksonville's got to be up there.
Who'd they all pick up?
They picked up. Now it's like O line was their biggest issue, right? One of their biggest issues, and they got some decent O linemen. They got Chuma Adoga, a tackle. You have Patrick McCarry, who's O-line. Robert Hainsey, who was a center for the Buccaneers. So he has familiarity with Mr. Duval himself, Liam Cohen. So,
Whoa.
so they beefed up their O-line. So now at number 5, which is their draft pick, they don't necessarily need to worry about drafting O-line. They can focus on the defensive line because their trenches are terrible. But now they beefed up their O-line a bit. Now you can maybe push the focus of offensive linemen to the second and third rounds. But at the same time, Jacksonville does need to draft a wide receiver, so they might wait till later rounds to draft O-line. But point is, with the number 5 pick, Suddenly, O-line, they don't need to reach on a tackle or a guard or anyone.
So Trevor Lawrence shouldn't have any excuses this year.
Not with Liam
It's
Cohen, no.
it's do or die for him at
I
this
think
point.
I'm really excited to see because like they didn't really like they signed like uh tight end Hunter Long and Johnny Munt, and they got De'Ami Brown, who I think he's going to be a really good wide receiver 3 for the Jags, but they're looking for that wide receiver 2 that can complement uh what's his face? Brian Robinson Jr. No, not Brian Robinson. Brian Thomas Jr. There we go.
Oh yeah.
But so I think in a Liam Cohen offense too, and he's going to be calling the offense. I think they could be like, this is kind of the year for Lawrence to say, this is why you paid me. This is why I was the number one pick. It needs to come all together now. Like, it needs to.
Yeah, I mean that's another guy that just kind of pisses me off sometimes, Trevor Lawrence, because he should be a lot better than what he's been playing, how he's been playing. And I know there's been some injuries and stuff, but eventually you just kind of gotta like get it going here, and I want
That's,
to see him
and
to
he
see
has,
his true potential.
we started seeing that at the end of, was it the 2023 season, I think. I think we started seeing that a bit, or, no, or I think the first year of uh, Doug Peterson's first year, like that last half of the season, he started kind of seeing like some of these pinpoint accuracy throws. It's like, holy shit, he might be waking up. And then out of nowhere, Doug Peterson last year was just like, nah, we're not going to do anything that worked for us. And it's like he gave up or something. Like he just didn't have any more energy to give. And he was like, yeah, I might get fired. I don't know. And it's like, dude, that's not what you want from your head coach.
No, probably not.
Even Pete Carroll has more energy than he does.
Oh my gosh, Pete Carroll, fucking gum chewer.
Fucking gum chewer. But now that we're talking about the Raiders, I guess they got Geno Smith in a trade from the Seattle Seahawks, and I think speaking of Shador Sanders, if the Browns don't and the Giants don't take Shador Sanders, or let's say hypothetically, the Browns take Shador Sanders and the Giants sign Russell Wilson, which is where I think he should go. I think Russell Wilson should go to the Giants. Suddenly, the Raiders don't need to worry about drafting a quarterback in the first round, at least, because you have Geno Smith, who, when he plays inside a dome, he is lights out. Well, guess who has a dome? The Raiders. And you're going to have two really good tight ends. You have Hunter Renfrow still, and you have Jacoby Myers, who is an underrated wide receiver, and I was kind of hoping we would trade for him. But now suddenly at that number 6 pick, which I think is what they have, number 6 or number 7, they can focus on drafting a guy like Ashton Genty, who is going to be, oh my God, he's going to be so good in the pros. He's going to be great. But with like, that's kind of all that team is really missing right now. Like the talent they have at wide receiver isn't lights out amazing, such as a Brian Thomas Jr. or a DK Metcalf or Jackson Smith and Higba or all those all stars. But they have talent, and if they want to compete, the really big missing piece they have is running back. And at that number 6, number 7 pick, whichever one they have, Ashton Genty is right there.
So you think Raiders can go running back?
I think so. And if they don't, it's going to be someone on defense, or they're going to stretch on or reach on a wide receiver. But we basically have to look at, how did Chip Kelly run an offense? How did Pete Carroll run an offense? You're going to need a good running back. The Raiders don't have that. Ashton Genty's right there. And if he doesn't go to the Raiders, as a Packer fan, it scares me to say it, there's a really good chance, and this is kind of a transition here, that he goes to Chicago.
Oh, great.
Because they just, and literally within a freaking week, they just rebuilt their whole O-line. They made all the right decisions.
Yeah, Bears are gonna be scary next year.
They
'Cause if
signed
they could,
center Drew Dahlman. They signed Or they trade for Jonah Jackson. They trade for Joe Tooney. It's like, oh my God, stop it.
Yeah, if they could protect Justin Fields and give him
You
time.
mean Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams, holy shit.
You
Yes,
you're
Caleb
way
Williams.
behind.
Holy fuck. Yes, Caleb
But
Williams.
yeah, it's like if not Brian, Ben Johnson suddenly puts it all together for Caleb Williams, because now they have an all line. They have DJ Moore still. Um, they might
Rome.
still have. Oh, I can't remember his name. Either way, they have options and running back. Oh my God, Ashton Genty and a Ben Johnson offense. No, no. Ugh. As a
Yeah.
as a football fan, let's fucking go. As a Packer fan, please no. I don't want the 30 years of misery to begin.
It kind of feels like it's almost shifting that way, doesn't it?
It kind of does. It kind of does.
Yeah, that is
Because
scary.
what if Love isn't the guy? What if LaFleur suddenly just takes a massive step back and never gets back to where he should have gotten us? It could happen. Weirder things have happened in football. But yeah, like Bears fans, I know the meme is that they always win the off season, but they legitimately won the off season so far.
Oh yeah, by far.
And like Patriots, like I would say Patriots, Jacksonville, and Chicago are like all one free agency so far. And I guess that's a good point to mention the Patriots and who they signed. Of they really just beefed up their defense a lot, and they signed Morgan Moses, who was a tackle. I think he was with the Ravens or the Jets last year, but um, like that was the issue with that team was O line and wide receiver. Well, now they addressed O line a bit. Now they can, and they beefed up defense with that 125 mil they had in cap space. I think there's a good chance they can really focus on, like, oh man, with the number 4 pick, there's a good chance they get Abdul Carter. Oof. Like
Yeah, they're gonna make a push this year.
they're not gonna make a push, but they're gonna with Mike Vrabel as head coach. They're gonna get their asses whooped, but they're gonna be in line and they're gonna be a good football team.
Mm.
Which I just saw this on my list, and I know I'm bouncing around a lot, but why the fuck are all these talented players going to shitty teams?
Money talks, I guess.
Apparently, I thought you guys cared about winning, but no. Paulson
No.
Adebo to the Giants. The Saints getting who'd they get? The Saints got Justin Reed. It's like, why?
Miles Garrett was talking so much. I want to go to a winning team until they
And then they
threw
paid
out
him.
all that money. And he's like, oh,
He thought
never
of
mind.
he thought of 140 million reasons why he should stay with the Browns.
I can't fucking blame him. I would have did the same thing. Like if you give me that kind of money, but like
Super
holy
Bowls are
shit.
temporary.
Yeah.
140 mil though.
Yeah, and just seems like a lot of movement this year too. I don't know, like there's a lot going on.
Well, looking at
I
my
was
like I sent you that picture of like all the free agents that were available.
oh yeah, it's crazy. Editor, flash that picture up on the screen.
Oh no,
But,
please don't make me.
but,
But
yeah, there was a lot going on. I tried keeping up with it, and it's just like holy shit.
it's heavily defensive sided free agency this year. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of why it feels so boring this time around compared to last year. Because you had guys like Josh Jacobs going to the Packers. You had Saquon Barkley leaving the Giants to go to division rival the Eagles. You had Derrick Henry to the Ravens. You just had all of these guys, like these top names, go everywhere. Like Rodgers coming back, Russell Wilson and Fields on the Steelers. Devontae Adams might get traded to the Steelers, or not the Steelers, but to the Jets. Like it was just so much like skill position players making moves, but this time around it really isn't that way. And I think that's part of why it feels so boring this year. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just us. But to me, this free agency was kind of just meh.
Meh. Yeah,
It-
that's a good way of describing it.
it's like, okay, these were a lot of expected moves, a lot of disappointing moves with guys like T. Higgins and Chris Godwin just staying put. But because I guarantee the Patriots would have shelled out a lot of cash for Chris Godwin. And then, like, I mean, there's still talent out there. Like I said, like Aziz Ojulari, who maybe I'm higher on him than a lot of people are, but I really want that guy. And he's really good in my opinion. But then you have like pending trades like Trey Hendrickson. Well, now the Packers have to reconsider trading for him because I heard a rumor the Bengals are looking for like a first and a third for him. And like,
Really?
yeah, and
I thought he got traded already.
nope, he's still at the Bengals.
Oh shit.
But he's
Yeah.
not gonna be for long because they can't afford him, especially now that the defensive end market is like 100 million guaranteed.
Brian, listen to me. You do not hit on your first round picks. You never do.
You don't.
You draft some project player, and then it's like 2-3 years down the road. Trade the first round pick if you need to. I don't care. Give them a third if they want as well. Let's get a fucking defensive rusher in here that can rush the quarterback. So then we're not letting QBs pick us apart. And
And if you don't do that, freaking sign Aziz Ojulari. Okay, that linebacker room would be lethal. You could generate so much pressure with them. Oh, I'm dying. Oh.
you okay?
Oh no, but we're gonna keep going anyways. That's what we do here at Jump the Snap.
Jump the snap.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the Raiders quick because I forgot to mention. So they have Geno Smith. And speaking of free agents still out there, there is Tyler Lockett. And I think there's a really good chance, he's kind of in the sunset years.
Oh.
I think he's going to reunite with Pete Carroll and stick with Geno Smith. And with, like I said before, they have no pressure now to draft a quarterback this year. They could wait a year or two with Geno Smith. And I think, but they still should draft someone. And I think that someone should be Jalen Milroe, who I told you, which I don't even know if you saw, but I said it in the chat, was that the whole time at the combine, he was just sailing the ball. And I watched a little bit of film on him from Alabama. That's kind of his thing. He always sails the ball. He makes it harder on the receiver to catch it than he should. And he also has some like decision issues. But I heard a rumor that the Raiders really like him. And if you give him a year or two to sit behind someone with a similar skill set, such as Geno Smith, that could be your franchise guy right there.
Oh, what's he projected in the draft?
Like wider, not wide, quarterback 5-ish, quarterback
Okay.
4. So like a second, not like second round would probably still be reaching on him. I'd take him in the third at most. And then you have a guy like I don't even like talking about him because he just bothers me. Quinn Ewers from Texas. He's just what you saw at the like he had a really good combine, but that kind of just like that kind of just means you saw what we expected to see out of him. It's like he kind of misses these throws. He doesn't really seem to have the best mechanics. He has zero pocket presence. Like, oh my god.
Zero pocket presence.
Like when there's pressure, he doesn't even see it coming. And that's how they didn't get to the national championship. Ohio sent a blitz. He didn't even see the guy coming at him or had zero sense of pressure. Like oh man, like a couple of years ago they were talking he might be a first round quarterback but he is second round at best. And I frankly have a feeling he could, if he goes pro and someone tried to take him as a starter, he could end up being a Will Levis type of starter. He's going to make some throws. He might win you a few games, but he is not the guy.
Is he just like inconsistent as hell?
Yeah. Like he was like the best quarterback Texas has had in years, and he got him to back playoffs. But you look at the talent he had, like the whole talent of, oh my God, the running backs they had. Like I think he had Bijan Robinson as a running back.
Oh, sure.
And now you have Xavier Worthy, who's the fastest wide receiver all time at the combine. You have Matthew Golden, who had the second fastest 40. Like, and Isaiah, not I don't remember. I think it's Bond. I think it was Bond and Golden. But those two guys were like top five wide receivers in terms of 40. So like he had this offensive talent, but I think that's why he was initially projected so high was he had all this talent making him look better than he was. But that's for a different day to discuss. I still need to go over film and combine footage and whatnot. But yeah, with the Raiders, I just think if you're going to take a quarterback at all, it should be Jalen Milroe and have him be the backup and learn under these two very like your offensive coordinator is an experienced head coach. Your
Oh,
coach is an experienced coach, twice to the Super Bowl, one-time Super Bowl winning coach. You have a veteran quarterback who could coach him up. Like the potential is there.
sitting even a few years, like we just discussed. I mean, it does. I always like that way better than just throwing them in there right away because they lose that confidence right away. And
If
then,
it well, that's the thing too. We're gonna learn what kind of player Caleb Williams is because the Bears are doing everything right to help him. But if he suddenly looks like he did last season still, then we know he's officially shell shocked and he might not ever come back. Like that's what happened to Sam Darnold and like he was just put into a bad situation on the Jets and he was shell shocked and seeing ghosts out there like he so famously said. It's because he was just shell shocked from being behind in a bad offensive line. But that's not the case anymore. Oh, the Caleb Williams does not have that excuse to be missing throws, to hang onto the ball so long, to play hero ball. And Keenan Allen, that's the other wide receiver they have. But like there's other do with like the Raiders in Texas. That was what my brain was going was they have like Arch Manning potentially an option next year. I really think he's going to play 2 years of college before coming out. So that 2027 draft, Arch Manning's QB number one probably.
yeah.
But so like if Geno Smith doesn't work out, if Jalen Milroe isn't the guy you believe you thought you could turn him into, Arch Manning's still out there. He's kind of up for the taking right now, and who knows? Maybe Arch Manning goes back to Manning to Manning Giants. Who knows? Or frickin' maybe that's why the Colts want to roll with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson because they think Manning's going to come out
Oh,
next year.
wouldn't that be suiting?
Oh, I just want to see Arch Manning in a good situation because oh my god, like he seems like a good
Colt,
dude.
the Colts wouldn't be like a terrible situation.
They
I mean,
have
at
no
least they,
culture. They have no drive. We talked about it last time. Like Pat McAfee said it best. Like there's just no identity there. It's just
it could be worse, you know.
it could, but ever since Manning and Andrew Luck, they're irrelevant. I think we got to talk about it a bit about the Broncos because they did sign Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga. And oh, I didn't even have it on my list and I forgot about it. They signed Evan Ingram for their tight end.
They signed Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm. So now suddenly they don't need to take a tight end in the first round. They could go after a wide receiver in the first round, which was debatable to begin with. A lot of people were wondering, was it going to be tight end? Is it going to be a wide receiver? Someone that can complement Cortland Sutton? I think now it's almost a lock that they go a wide receiver in the first round because they
Oh yeah,
beefed up their defense. I think they're going to do better now. I think Bo Nix is only going to get better every year.
yeah. Who do you think? Who do you think they might be looking at first round?
Luther Burden. Luther Burden or Amika Ibuka. The big like I don't know. To me, the biggest thing is the Rams. It's like Justin Fields to the Jets. That was kind of expected with all the rumors we were hearing, and I'd say DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens. That's a little surprising. You want to talk about free agent signings? I think honestly, the Rams are my. I don't know if this is the right term, but they're my dark horse to win the Super Bowl next year.
Oh, what made them your dark horse? Have they always been your dark horse, or did they
They
do
got. I
something that?
kind of had my eye on them with how they did in the playoffs last year. But now they have Devonte Adams, who was way better than Cooper Cup. They still have Puka Nakua entering year three. They beefed up their D line and they got a new center in free agency. So, and they've been drafting ever since they got their first round picks back. They've been drafting very well. You have Matthew Stafford, who just refuses to lose a step. Like, I think they have a very legitimate chance of pushing for the Super Bowl next year. And part of me, as a Devontae Adams fan, really hopes he gets that ring. Wish it was
Oh,
with us, but I hope Devontae gets his ring.
that'd be cool. If the Packers couldn't win, yeah, that'd be cool to see just Devontae finally getting his at least. So
And it's like you don't have to worry about the Niners anymore.
yeah, obvious. I can't believe
Like
the Niners.
the
I
NFC
mean,
West is going to be dominated by the Cardinals or the Rams.
yeah,
And it all depends on Kyler Murray. So my money is Rams have the 2 or 3 seed, potentially the number 1 seed. I don't know if the Eagles can run it back like they were, especially losing all that defensive line talent.
yeah. I think the Eagles just got really freaking hot at a good time. I mean, they'll still be good, but I don't think they're gonna be nearly as good as they were this last year.
No. It'll be interesting. I think there's going to be some I think there's a change of the wind coming up next year. Like the Chiefs, they are not going to. Well, that's the thing. Who are they going to sign? I told you that because they cleared like 25 or 50 mil in cap space.
Oh yeah, they never made any moves on
They
that
haven't
yet,
made
did
any
they?
like significant moves to warrant that kind of cap space. So like, are they gonna try and push for Trey Hendrickson? What are they gonna do?
Oh my gosh.
Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Like you clear that cap space if you're planning on bringing someone in and paying them. And Trey
Him and
Hendrickson
Chris,
is due a contract. So
him and Chris Jones. Like
uh and
what?
they already have good linebackers and
Now that'd kind of be overkill.
it
But
would
like,
on their defense, but their offense, that's assuming their wide receivers don't end up in jail. We're going to talk about it more when we do our division by division videos. And this season's going to be, I think, a very big make or break for a lot of teams. Like, you're going to find out who's going into poverty and who's going to start coming up on like the new heads of the NFL. It's going to be interesting. Free agency was very interesting, so hopefully the draft is more interesting, especially since I'm going to be there for all 3 days.
oh yeah, that'll be fun.
That being there will be fun, but hopefully the picks are fun. I want some drama, but warranted drama. You know,
How are you gonna react if the Packers do make a reach their first round pick?
it's just guaranteed. If they like say the guy like some of these guys like say like someone like Matthew Golden or Tetaroa McMillan make it to pick 23, please. If you draft one of them, I'm passing out, and it's a good thing I got a friend going with me because then he can pick up the camera. I've said my 10 cents. You've said your. I don't know how many cents you said, but you said cents. I think that's kind
Yep.
of it for us, really. Hopefully, this isn't another hour and a half video, but
All right. Well, for the blind people out there, we're ending the video now. But if you can drag the cursor to the like or the subscribe button or both, and you could do that, and you could
Well,
support us.
don't make them feel
Um,
like they have to. If you liked
no,
us,
you have to. I
no,
have
no.
bills to pay. I have
Listen,
bills to
listen,
pay.
listen to me. I'm the angel on the shoulder here. Okay, if you feel like it, like and subscribe.
You do. You do feel like it. Okay. All right. Until next time, we will talk to you guys later.